You're watching Alabama's WVUA News at 10.
Tonight at 10, the latest details on the investigation of the homicide in the Highlands. Plus, the search for a new Norfolk police chief continued with interviews tonight. Also, we'll hear from one of the men defending the Voting Rights Act before the Supreme Court. And we have some tips for you as you get ready to prepare your taxes. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tamika Alexander. We begin tonight with the latest on the homicide in the Highlands. As the investigation continues, less and less information is coming out about who killed 73-year-old Kate Ragsdale. WVUA's Travis Leader joins us now with more on this ongoing case. Travis, what can you tell us investigators told you about this case today?
Well, Tamika, unfortunately, the answer is not much at this point, but we did notice increased activity at the crime scene again today. Now, for a couple hours this afternoon, the mobile crime lab did return along with investigators. Now, as the video plays here, you can see investigators working. According to Tuscaloosa Metro Homicide Captain Lloyd Baker, investigators returned only to do additional scene work. There is still no word on who committed the crime, and at this point, there isn't even knowledge of how many suspects are involved, much less a description of one's identity. Baker says they continue to seek witnesses and gather more information.
Right now, we are investigating people she has come in contact with from the day of her death backwards. And we need witness help in determining who those people are. We're looking at other methods as well, phones, internet, but anyone who has had contact with our victim from the day of her death prior to that, we want to know about it.
And Baker says if you have any information that could be helpful in this case, you are encouraged to call Crime Stoppers at 205-752-STOP. That's 752-7867. Tamika.
Thanks, Travis. A new police chief could soon be appointed in the city of Northport. The mayor and city leaders gathered at City Hall tonight to conduct interviews. The 4 candidates are all men and are already officers in the department. Each applicant was asked a series of questions and was given 45 minutes to answer all of them. Mayor Bobby Herndon says it's important to hire inside the force so officers will have an incentive to do better.
If I was a police officer, it would make me feel a whole lot better if I knew that one day I'm going to have a chance or the opportunity to advance myself. And, you know, it's just a great thing for morale. And, you know, somebody that has been in the city's forces, knows the city, knows the officers that are there.
Interviewing in-house is probably it's probably the best way to go. And then if we don't find what we feel like we're looking for, then we can advertise and widen our search.
The mayor hopes to have the final decision made within 30 days. It's a sentence of 3 years in jail and 7 years on probation for the former director of Kentuck and Northport. Sarah Ann Gibson admitted stealing thousands of dollars while working at the Kentuck Art Center in Northport between 2003 and 2009. The judge will decide how much Gibson will have to pay back. Gibson worked with Kentuck in several positions over a 30-year period. She resigned in 2009 after the allegations surfaced. The annual Kentuck Festival of the Arts draws artists from all over the country. In news from around the nation, it's a done deal. The Senate finally voted to confirm Chuck Hagel as Defense Secretary Tuesday in a 58-41 vote. After a bruising nomination process, Hagel now takes over for outgoing Secretary Leon Panetta. Republicans harshly criticized him over his past statements in sensitive political and national security matters. His shaky performance at his confirmation hearing didn't help matters. Hagel is a decorated Vietnam veteran and a former senator from Nebraska. Well, today marks 20 years since an explosion rocked the World Trade Center on February 26, 1993. The first report that day suggested a possible transformer mishap, but investigators learned over the next several days that Islamic extremists were behind the attack that killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000. Well, let's get a check on Alabama's home team forecast. Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott joins us now. Richard, a chilly night out there tonight.
Yeah, getting colder by the minute, Tamika. Temperatures back down to 30-some spots. In fact, most of us in the 40s now, but a couple 30-degree temperatures starting to show up on the map there. 46 Tuscaloosa, 44 in Birmingham, and we will likely all drop down to 30. So later on tonight, skies are gradually clearing out. Still a good deal of cloud cover, especially along the north of I-20, but I think later tonight, some of these clouds will gradually break up. No chance of rain overnight tonight. We'll stay dry through tomorrow morning. Here's that bus stop forecast early tomorrow morning, talking those mid to upper 30s. A cold start to the day. Will be a dry start, but when will the rain return, and is there a chance of snow over the weekend? We'll talk more about that coming up in Home Team Weather, so stay with us.
Thanks, Richard. Tax season is well underway, but there are still some folks out there waiting to file. An IRS spokesman says last-minute tax laws went into effect January 3rd and are to blame for the slow start this year. And even though most people are now able to file, there are still about 30 forms still processing. One thing the IRS says hasn't changed is the number of scams people try to run during this season. WVUA caught up with an IRS representative, and he says beware of emails.
The IRS does not communicate through emails when we're talking about your taxes. Typically, we're going to send you a letter or a notice in the mail. Now, these emails are very dangerous because if you click on any links in them or open any attachments, you may be downloading malware to your computer, and then the scammers can steal information off your computer without you even knowing it.
Boone also says to be mindful of who you're giving your personal information to. If you believe someone might try to fraudulently file taxes in your name, contact the IRS immediately. Tonight, the Tuscaloosa City School Board of Education unanimously passed a measure that may affect your household if you have middle schoolers. Starting in fall 2013, middle school courses will be divided into 2 levels, regular and honors. Previously, the students were taught at 3 different levels, regular, honors, and advanced. The board is hoping this change will boost the area's performance. Dr. Elizabeth Davis, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, says she modeled Tuscaloosa's new curriculum after successful schools in the state.
Between 8 and 12 that we looked at, and they all have very similar to us, and they all have 2 levels. In middle school, same thing, all 2 levels. Systems are doing 2 levels because of various reasons, but one is to make sure that the curriculum is taught at the regular level and at that second level. And we also, I think it's important to note for those children that need to accelerate, we have the acceleration policy.
Davis says the school system should see true change from this policy in 3 to 5 years. Once disaster strikes, what is the best way to handle the situation without putting anyone in danger? Last week, CERT taught us how to make a preparedness kit, and this week, WVUA's Emily Forrester teaches you what to do in the wake of an emergency.
Community Emergency Response Team Training teaches everyday citizens the do's and don'ts of handling a disaster.
Well, the first thing is make sure you're okay, make sure your family's okay.
CERT trainers say next you should assess the safety of your surroundings.
When they get there, probably should look around and first of all make sure that the area that they're going into is safe.
After an emergency like a tornado or an earthquake, it may seem like a good idea to go into the rubble to help others. But Green says that rubble like this concrete block can hurt you and others even more. Although you may not be medically trained to handle a situation, by knowing the 3 killers, you can help officials once they arrive on the scene.
Maintain an airway, control the bleeding, prevent shock.
CERT members are trained to look for these 3 killers to assess the victim's condition.
Applying pressure, direct pressure to somebody's bleeding, elevating the legs to help prevent shock. Just doing those simple type things can add those extra minutes that person may need later on down the road.
Green says because of the lack of emergency vehicles and massive disasters, knowing these 3 things could mean the difference between life and death for a victim. Reporting in Tuscaloosa, Emily Forrester, WVUA News.
For more information on handling disasters or community emergency response training, go to WVUATV.com and click on numbers and links. Well, city leaders are looking to bring back a popular winter attraction to West Alabama. According to City Communications Director Deidre Staltnaker, the popular Holidays on the River ice skating attraction made the city $1,500, which was an added bonus because their original goal was only to break even. Mayor Maddox and council members are in favor of bringing the ice skating rink back next year, and officials are already looking at ways to make it even bigger.
We are in the process of planning for next year. I think we want to come earlier, before Thanksgiving, to kind of get a jump on the season, and maybe even stay later and add some other components.
The event took place outside the City Transportation Museum. There were other holiday-themed activities at the site, including carriage rides, movie screenings, and Santa Claus. When WVUA News at 10 returns, are we in store for some snow later in the week? Richard will update your home team forecast. Plus, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to review a landmark legislation that cleared barriers to the ballot box for all American citizens. And Gary Harris will let us know if Alabama prevailed against Auburn in the Iron Bowl of basketball tonight. That's coming up later in your home team sports.